Hello and welcome to Confidently Wrong, a show by regular dudes talking with confidence about content we have no right to speak about with any kind of authority, but do it anyway. I'm Wesley Nakamura, and as always, I'm joined by award-winning director Brian Redondo and Savon Jones, aka Captain Monty. This is episode 181, and we break down our first look at Daredevil Born Again. I'm confident that it's going to be the best show you've ever listened to, and well, hey, if it's not, you can always ask us for a refund.
Incredible!
Hello, gentlemen! Welcome back. It's Confidently Wrong. Sav, how we doing?
I'm doing just dandy.
Awesome. Brian, how are you doing?
I wouldn't say dandy, but like
Dandy
Fantastic.
Lion.
fancy?
Amazing.
Fantastically well.
Yeah, sure.
You're doing
Any one of those adjectives.
splendiferous. We are back in Hell's Kitchen. This is going to be spoilers full, so tons of spoilers coming. Daredevil Born Again. We return to Matt Murdock and Daredevil.
The
and
man
Kingpin.
without fear.
You love
Such
that.
a weird tagline. And his lawyer adventures, his vigilante adventures, although more lawyer adventures this season than we're maybe used to. Where can you tell? It's been many, many years since we had the Netflix Daredevil series. We did see Daredevil in She-Hulk, and he showed up for a minute in Spider-Man.
And he had a walk of shame in She-Hulk.
He did. Spider-Man. What was it called? It's not the No Way Home one. Is it No Way Home?
This is the one where they go to Europe, right?
No. It was the one where that was the multiverse one.
Yeah, that was the one he appeared in.
All right.
Oh, No Way Home. Then it was No Way
No
Home.
Way Home. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So, anyways, tell us, where did we last see our crew of Foggy, Karen, and Daredevil? What do you got, Sav? You got the memory. I have the memory of a goldfish. You got the memory of an elephant. Lay it on us. Remind us. Where are we?
Yeah, so last time we saw them, we got to see the big conclusion between Daredevil and Kingpin at the time. If you recall, at this point,
Kingpin
Daredevil,
at the time.
yeah, Kingpin has his him and Matt have their brutal final battle in Kingpin's apartment. Matt beats the crap out of Kingpin. This is all after also when Matt has tried to clear his name because the deranged Bullseye has been manipulated by Kingpin into also being a fake Daredevil killing folks. Things have gotten really, really nasty. Last we saw them know, at this point, Matt's friends are all aware of his Daredevil status, much to their own frustration. Matt has beat the crap out of Kingpin and beaten him bloodied. And they end on a bit of a impasse by saying, I'm not going to kill you, but we're going to end this because I will put your wife in prison. And that's enough to put Kingpin in line. We don't really see too much of our friends after that. But at that point, Foggy, Karen, and Matt have all opened their own small private practice. Kingpin is kind of chilling out because everything with his wife and her being basically threatened by Matt. Your boy Bullseye is getting operated on because his back got broken. The series ends more or less with them having as close of a happy ending as you're going to get. And then for characters like Kingpin, who had a little bit more story after that roading into the show, we saw him last in Hawkeye, where he was terrorizing the family of Kate Bishop through his mob connections and the Tracksuit Mafia and all that good stuff. And if we recall, it ends with Maya Lopez shooting Kingpin in the eye or in the face, which then leads us into...
Wait, you forgot the best part. He was showing up in a Hawaiian shirt and a white suit.
Yeah, the classic Kingpin look,
Yeah.
the OG look. Shot him in his white, his Hawaiian
His
shirt,
Christmas outfit.
white suit, blicked him. He was on vacation, thinking, look, he's a snowbird, a snowbird. He gets shot. Kingpin then reappears in the show Echo with Maya Lopez, where he's been learned that he's recovered. But it's important for this show because during the time that Kingpin was shot in the face and recovering after being shot by Maya, he was not in the picture when it came to running his criminal enterprise, and his wife Vanessa took over. And that kind of sets the scene for Daredevil, where going into episode 1, Matt, Foggy, Karen have their practice. Kingpin has been kind of out of the picture because he's still been recovering, but he's kind of coming back in. Vanessa's taken over. Bullseye's still a nut job.
And
I think
she's
that
good
more or
at
less.
it. She's good at running
Yeah, and she's good at
the
it.
Empire.
But that's kind of more of us getting into Daredevil itself. In terms of painting the picture, Kingpin was out because he was shot, but that's not because of Daredevil. I think that more or less gives us a solid idea of where we are going into episode 1.
And then the previous Netflix Daredevil series canceled after 3 seasons. That's
Well,
that's sort of where
Netflix canceled all of those shows, and
Do you think it's because like Iron Fist ran them into the ground? Is that what happened?
It
I
was a
don't
mix
think
of
so.
money. I think it was a mix of money, and
Yeah.
they probably touched on all the stuff they wanted to do. And I think at this point, Disney was already shaping up to kind of want to do their own TV platforming and programming. Because this is back when they just let Netflix and a different Marvel studio
So they
handle it.
wanted it to expire.
It was probably a mix of like, we've done all we want to do. We don't want to spend that much more money down the line because we want to invest in getting our Disney Plus shows off the ground. But Iron Fist being absolute ass did not help.
And probably we're in agreement that the Daredevil series was the best of the bunch.
Yeah, I'd say.
I thought season 1 of Jessica Jones was really great.
Agreed.
Where we had David Tennant as the main villain.
Yeah. Most folks will say Daredevil's best, and then Jessica Jones, Luke Cage are kind of like in a similar tier, depending on, I think, maybe genre preferences, with Iron Fist being bad, and then Defenders having its moments where in some parts it's good and others it's bad, primarily because of Iron Fist.
Thanks a lot, Iron Fist.
I know Iron Fist is not the best, and the actor is just a little bit weird, and some of the storylines are a little bit like wonky.
He's a dated character, bro. He was a white guy, a rich white kid who becomes a kung fu master, and it's just like, the world has evolved past the need for these stories.
Yeah, he apparently he didn't want to like do any of the choreography and practice for the fights, and so they come off a little bit weak. And he's just like I don't know, whatever, it's fine.
There was a lot of stuff
we don't have to bury the dead horse, but I want to give a shout out in that show to the woman who kind of like mentors him a little bit and is
Colleen?
kind of his foil. Yeah, I think it's Colleen. I thought she did great. Like her acting and her action scenes were terrific, and so. If you ever go back to that show, look out for her. I think she did a great job on it. All right, so we're back here with Daredevil Born Again.
Yeah, buddy.
I mean, spoilers happening from here on out. For episode 1, huge in terms of what happens in it, right? Like we get Foggy Nelson, and this is like spoilers. At the end of it, he gets shot. Bullseye takes him out from afar. Unclear on whether Foggy was the actual target, although we know that Bullseye doesn't miss, so seems like he was.
So you just answered it.
Yeah, but like we're not
answer.
sure. We're not actually sure why he takes out Foggy in particular and not Matt Murdock, right? Like his beef is more with Daredevil. But maybe it's just to make Daredevil suffer, right? Like he knows that like taking out Foggy is going to like wreck him. So maybe that's kind of the point. We don't really know. And I think that's probably one of the weak points of the show so far. But what did you think of episode 1 by itself as kind of a way to kick off the show? Brian, lead us off.
And you forgot to mention that Matt throws him off the roof. Bullseye hitting the pavement. Oh my God.
Brutal.
How he survives that doesn't really make a lot of sense.
Bodies are resilient.
People be living through dumb shit.
Kind of wild.
Yeah.
Kind of wild that he.
Well, I do want to say
they took it
too,
to that extreme.
Yeah, that made me think of this. Before you go on, I think we should say that like Disney Plus shows have not been hyper violent, and neither has most of the MCU. This show promises to return back to that Netflix era, and maybe even goes over and above that in terms of like the level of violence and gruesome like body horror stuff that we're gonna see here, like broken bones coming out of arms, people getting shot, like you said, showing us the full effect of Bullseye getting thrown off the building. They do a wide shot and we see his body slam into the ground. So this show is not pulling punches and being like a traditional Disney Plus or MCU show. It is trying to carry on that same DNA that the original show had of just being brutal in all of its ways. Keep going, Brian. I'm sorry.
Well, it's interesting that you bring that up because that's how the show is marketed, right?
Yeah.
Like they, where they really emphasize the sound effects of the broken bones and the fight scenes and all of that. But, episode 1 and the, 1 through 4 now that we have seen, right? Like it's foregrounded with this intense, crazy fight scene, Bullseye coming to the bar, just like hitting Matt with knife after knife, and he's like climbing up the stairs with all these daggers sticking out of his torso,
like a Deadpool fight.
Yeah, it was. He's like walking around like a zombie too. It's kind of crazy. And then you have this like over the top climax of Bullseye getting thrown off.
Did you not
building.
like it?
And what I'm saying is that everything that follows though is nowhere near that level of brutality or bloodiness.
What? A character gets shot in the head. on screen.
I think it's dark in terms of its tone, not necessarily in terms of like gore violence, but I think that's fine.
I mean, getting shot in the head is pretty brutal.
No,
on
I'm saying
screen.
exactly. It's not like
very
they
brutal.
cut away. It's not like they
That
cut
doesn't-
away or you just hear the bang. Like they showed him.
Yeah,
Wow.
sure. But that doesn't happen until the very end of episode 3. And so what I'm saying is that, like, even though the marketing was like, oh yeah, bloody fights, broken bones over and over, we're gonna hit you on the head with this. That's actually not the series that we've gotten thus far. I think the moments of action and brutality are very few and far between. And episode 1 in particular, right? We start off with this, intense action sequence, and then that essentially wipes the board clean, right? It removes Foggy from the storyline. It removes Karen, who I think moved off to California or something like that in the wake of it, and we advance the story a year later or whatever it is. And Matt Murdock is kind of starting entirely new, right? He's
with a new partner that we don't
he
know
no
who she
longer
is.
wants to be Daredevil. He's at a new private firm with Kirsten. Shout out to Kirsten, played by Nikki James, who I actually went to grade school with. She's my sister's classmate.
Oh, fun.
Hey.
And so anyway, like they
Can you get her on the show?
No. She won a Tony Award. She's not coming on this shit. So
you never know.
So
Shoot your shot.
Matt Murdock's got a whole new circumstance, right?
Yeah,
He's not
reset
trying
the
to put
board.
on the Daredevil costume, and then Kingpin as well, also coming into a very new situation where he no longer wants to be the crime lord. He wants to be the mayor of New York, and for the most part, playing it very earnestly. Like he does really want to serve in that role, and and function as a politician, right? And a lot like maybe some other rich people that we know that jump into politics. Like he wants that form of power, and seems like he's trying to put his underworld background kind of behind him, and move forward in this new role. And so that's really what's set up in that first episode. And so that brings up like the title of Born Again, right? Like this is kind of a new show, even though that the marketing is trying to tell us like, this is just like the Netflix show, don't worry. It's, even though it's Disney Plus and whatever, they had that bit of connection with Foggy and Karen, wipe the board clean, and now we're launching off into a new trajectory for these two main characters, Kingpin and Daredevil, who are kind of functioning in a way that they don't want to become Kingpin and Daredevil, right? They want to be different people in all of this.
Absolutely. Yeah, Brian, talk that shit.
Zav, you got any more first impressions of episode 1?
Yeah, I mean, I mean, Brian kind of summarized a lot of the things I enjoy, but I'll just...
All right, then moving on. No, I'm just kidding.
But I'll just still say I liked the decision of them to do that board reset. I know some folks might not be a fan of it, but I'm pretty firmly...
Foggy.
I'm firmly in the camp...
It's the heart of the show.
I'm firmly in the camp that we didn't need this show to just be Foggy, Karen, Matt adventures like it was the first 3 seasons of Daredevil we got. And I think them doing a board reset might be frustrating in terms of characters that we've liked for a while, but they did at least give them a story-wise send-off that made sense and lets us explore and do something new and different. I think this might have felt a little stale if we had just been getting more of the same of Foggy telling Matt, be careful, and Matt proceeds to not be careful and beat a bunch of people up and then get beat up himself, and everyone worrying. Like, it's frustrating that we lose those favorite characters, and R.I.P. Foggy, that really hurt me when they killed him because I'm a huge fan of Foggy, but it's giving them room to try new things and introduce us to new characters and endear us to new characters. And not only has that been, at least for me, working so far, but it helps make this series stand out on its own. And I felt like that was further validated as we got to see the later episodes, which I think are taking good advantage of there being just more space for new characters. I don't think we would have been receptive to any of the newer characters if we're still waiting for fan favorites like Foggy and Karen to really be the driving factors. But I loved episode 1. I love the fight, the conclusion. I'm glad that they kind of gave us a little bit of wrap up of basically, because that basically was just an epilogue to the original series, and I'm fairly okay with that.
Go ahead, Wes. Tell us why he's wrong.
It felt rushed. I don't know. I mean, Karen and Foggy have been such a big part of the show, and for them to be like, I don't know, I can't remember if Savon, maybe you remember, like, I don't remember if Karen and Matt were like flirty and kind of together at the end of the last series, or the Netflix series.
It seemed like it in episode 1.
Yeah,
of this new series.
Yeah, I didn't know if that was like a new thing, or
they became a thing, because kind of like that was Matt's love interest.
Keep going. Sorry.
No, after the Elektra was the love interest during the Defender stuff, and then the next season of Daredevil's after the Defender stuff. At that point, Karen is a much more serious love interest for him and Matt, and they kind of have they're like building their relationship up. I think they're like a thing by the end.
Yeah, so I don't know, they played it as if it was like kind of flirty, like kind of on, but kind of not on in the beginning, and then like Foggy dies, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, why didn't you call me? I don't know. I couldn't call you because I was sad. And then she like leaves. She's like, okay, bye. I'm dating somebody else. And like, I get that, like you're saying, like maybe they just wanted to get to the point where like Karen wasn't in the picture and Foggy wasn't in the picture. And it just felt like you're starting a brand new series. It's been a billion years. Like you could have just not done all of that and just started the season, right? Like it was almost like you were better off not going there, because it felt like, all we needed to do was like get these people out of the picture, right? And then they don't show up again. There's no actual ramifications for Karen leaving. Like there's not, I don't know. It just it didn't feel like they earned what, like getting rid of those characters didn't seem like it actually did anything for the story. And so I was like, okay, well, then why did you have them in there in the first place?
So my pushback is that it is the key driving part of the entire Born Again storyline. Because at this point of the beginning, Matt seems to be in a good place. He's still doing the Daredevil stuff, but he's in a relationship. He has this thing. He has this business, this law firm with his two best friends. He's no longer being secretive about it and hiding it from them because that was causing so much relationship stuff. He's in a good place. An old enemy comes and F's all of that up purely because he hates him, kills his best friend. It ruins his relationship with his other best friend / romantic interest. Like, I think it made perfect sense that two people's best friend getting murdered and the way that happened could lead to their entire friendship falling apart. And again, Matt's entire thing has been that he does not kill. And in that moment, he threw all his ideals out the window when he threw Bullseye off that roof. So that alone, that is the key catalyst of this entire storyline, which is Daredevil's a vigilante, but he has lines he doesn't cross. In a moment of pain, not only did he lose his best friend, but he crossed that line and didn't even kill the person. Now, because the entire theme, I wanted to talk more about this when we got to the whole him not wearing the suit, but like the whole theme of this series is exploring Matt Murdock's personal philosophy and what motivates him and who he actually is in terms of his morals and how does he balance that with being a lawyer and being Daredevil. But I think you don't get any of that if he doesn't have the eternal conflict of, do I and how do I do this when I lost my best friend and I tried to kill a man because I couldn't handle that responsibility? Like, I don't think you get that without him losing everything that he cared about or losing something important to him. Like, it would have been Karen who died or Foggy that died, but like by the end of episode 1, Matt has lost everything. He lost his best friend, his relationship with Karen falls apart, and the Daredevil thing, which is a big part of him, like he doesn't feel worthy to do it because he thought he tried to kill a man. Like, you don't have him retire in the way he did and have all this stuff that's being set up for these that we've seen these episodes without him having a huge L. And these are the things that's precious to him. Like, I don't think you get him quitting Daredevil and having all this introspection if he doesn't lose Foggy and Karen out of his life. And it's not like we didn't get plenty of time with them anyway. It's not like, oh, they were underutilized or, oh, we barely got to see them. We got a whole bunch of previous seasons of them so that it makes the loss feel that much more for real. But I don't think I would have been convinced of him quitting being Daredevil when he still has all his friends and support system and stuff around him, and then he decides to quit. Like, he does it. I don't know. I don't know how you get him to quit without having those things happen the way they did.
No, that part makes sense, and I mean, you certainly
But
could have done it a
that
different
is
way.
the key part of the story. Like, the whole point of Daredevil Born Again is that he's
I'm
like,
not
yo, man,
disagreeing with
F
that
this.
part.
What's going to make him say F this?
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with that part. I think it's just like the way that was handled to me felt like they just kind of said like, okay, and now Matt's like done with this, and that's it. We're just moving on, and it was like there was no showing us, right? It's a visual medium. They're not showing us how it's impacting Matt's life. They're not showing us how it impacted his relationships with them. Like, it was just Karen showing up and be like, why didn't you call me? And he was like, I don't know. And then that was it. And she left. I'm like, okay, great. Like,
I mean, but doesn't
I'm
that
glad,
the
but like they could
conversation
have shown
didn't
us. They could have shown us that. Like, they could have shown us like how, like, whatever. I don't know. I mean, I'm not a writer, but I think
you wouldn't want a time skip. You want more of a, like, forget like they did a year time skip after that. For you want to see what actually happened during that 1 year leading up to the sentencing for Bullseye.
Or even when they come back in this year, like, they should have still been angry with each other, right? Or like whatever. And I don't know.
Huh?
I mean,
right? Weren't they angry
were
with
kind
each
of
other?
just like, whatever, like, we don't care anymore.
So they tried to show it. Whether or not that scene
it just didn't feel
succeeds
successful.
is, it's very subjective.
All
but
right.
I do think like there's a good point to point out that one of the issues that happened in production for this new Daredevil Born Again series was the fact that they stopped it in the middle of production.
Yeah.
And they got rid of the directors and producers who are working on it through like 6 or 7 episodes already. The writer's strike happens in Hollywood. They take a break. Charlie Cox himself, kind of raised the red flag about where the show was going and said, like, it's kind of not working. We need a fix. Disney lets go of those people and brings in some new people to run the show, right? They bring in a former writer from The Punisher. They bring in some directors from Moon Knight and Loki. They bring in another producer from Ms. Marvel. And they try to reshape the show a little. And from what I understand, is that episode 1 is kind of entirely new, right? Like the production had already shot a number of episodes, I think like 2 through 6 or something like that. And then they went out and shot a new pilot episode. They brought in Foggy and Karen, who were not involved at all. And so all of that stuff of bringing in this connective tissue to the old series was not there before. And I think the problem, from what I understand, was that it was neither Born Again was neither a reboot nor was it a continuation. And it was like in this weird gray area that
the
just
worst of both worlds.
yeah. It just wasn't like doing anything. And so what this new team of creatives brought in was this, like, okay, here's why Foggy and Karen are not in the show, because this crazy awful thing happened, and that gives more importance and weight to Matt's whole journey throughout this season, at least what it seems to be, of like why he's not Daredevil, why he's so fixated on just being the lawyer and serving justice in that way, rather than roaming the streets at night. This is the reason why. And so, like, I totally agree with both of you, right? Like, yes, it's absolutely necessary. Hey, it just is what it is, man. It's like, yeah, we need a reason for Matt to be behaving like this and to give him, real tension and conflict throughout the season. Otherwise, we just have a Law and Order police procedural, right? Like we just have sort of like a case of the day situation, and maybe that's not that interesting, especially because he's not fighting crime. And then we have this other thing where, like, okay, so now we gotta establish that by having these scenes, but we can't spend so much time on it, and of course there's like money involved, and so they do these reshoots, they add this stuff on, and like, I'm not gonna lie, like, that Bullseye fight did not look good. Like the CG in that stuff is like terrible. Like
that took you out of it. Like like the CG was so a point where I'm like, oh, I'm not enjoying this as much because the CG. Like that's how you felt.
Totally. Like
Damn.
when you think about hallway fight scene in the Netflix series, and then you have this fight with Bullseye, you're kind of like, is that it? Is that all we're gonna get? And then they're just like moving pieces on the board with Karen, so that they can get to the show that was already shot with the older creative team, right? And so you like I definitely felt some of the clunkiness going on there, and I actually do think that the pilot episode might be the weakest of the 4 episodes I've seen so far. Whereas like I do think like 2 through 4 kind of take off for me. But that's not to say that the new creative team didn't add stuff to those subsequent episodes, because they clearly did, right? Like that Punisher scene probably is entirely new because it's all about Foggy. So like stuff like that seems really crucial to the series, and I'm glad they did it that way. But episode 1, yeah, maybe it's a little shaggy in some places, because they're they had to kind of correct the ship on this season.
What if they called episode 1, like what if they branded it as the prologue? Do you think that you would have received it differently? Because I agree in terms of the coherent overall story. Like obviously 2 and through 4 like connect way better because they're intentionally meant to connect and all that, and they build on each other. But I still liked episode 1 because I thought it was I love a good first episode, set the scene, kind of like set up to me this felt like a set the scenery episode. And again, I think it was either an epilogue to the original series or a prologue to the new series, whichever one you want to prefer. Do you think framing it in that epilogue, prologue type thing makes you receive what happens in the episode differently? Like, what if what if you have that as like a prologue to set the scene, and then the actual episode 1, 2, 3 is what we have seen, and they brand that as episodes 1 through whatever? Do you think? Because sometimes how you just are given the information can affect how you perceive it. Like, do you think would that have made a difference for you? Here's the prologue, and then time skip, and then but then okay, cool, Daredevil Born Again. We showed you how all this shit happened. Now the second episode is what's really the first, and now we really start this new series in earnest. Like, would that have moved the needle for you, or would that have been like been more receptive to the changes they had to do?
Yeah, that's why I was bringing up the marketing, right? Like the commercials are trying to make it seem
that's fair.
Like this is just like a straight up continuation of the Netflix series, and it's not, right? It really is a reset in a lot of ways. And so yeah, if they had changed it around and made you believe that like, okay, this episode 1 is not the paradigm for the rest of the season, but it's actually just a prologue, as you say. Like, yeah, I think you do digest it differently.
Okay, because then it just reminds me of our Falcon Winter Soldier conversation of like, what is that line between the art itself and how the art is branded in marketing, and then the fact that those two kind of are tied together,
fighting with each other.
Yeah, but then they're also tied together in a way that you can't really separate them. So I'm just curious if this is where there's a little bit of a manifestation of that, because I don't disagree with what y'all are saying, but I think some of it can just be a framing thing too. And it's like, it just depends on how you frame it. As an episode 1, yeah, I agree, it's probably weaker. As a prologue, I really enjoyed it. What does that mean for the series? Okay, cool. No, I feel you.
I don't know. I don't think for me that makes a big difference, but obviously I don't know. I mean, we can't go back and undo the marketing or whatever. I still think like, even if that was the case, the deal, like the whole thing with Karen would have just been still weak. And it's just odd that like, they show up and then they're gone, and it's like, oh, we thought this was going to be like something different maybe than it was, and maybe it's just the placement. I mean, like, you could also have this same story where it's like Murdoch or like Matt saying like, I'm not doing Daredevil, like, and there's a need for it, right? Like maybe like someone is running rampant in the streets, or maybe there's crime or whatever, and he's like, no, I'm not doing that. Like, I'm done with that life. And then we start to flesh out like how that happened, whether it's through flashbacks or through things like, you could have done that like slightly differently.
That's low-key Daredevil season 3.
Yeah, but like
that was low-key season 3, was him coming out the rubble after Defenders, and then him saying, I ain't trying to do this Daredevil shit no more right now. And it's like, hey, yo, the streets need you, Matt. And there's another fake Daredevil out here really causing problems. Like, all right, shit, I guess I gotta put the suit back. Like, I don't know, but that's the thing. That's why some of it is like you don't want to retread territory of like, don't forget we've already gotten 3.5 seasons of, like, we got 3 full seasons of Daredevil and his time in Defenders. Like, we've already covered a lot of ground of Matt Murdock's story and his tragedies, and those Netflix shows, don't forget, them motherfuckers was long. Like, they were a lot of episodes. I think some of it
12
we forget.
or 13 episodes.
Longer than that. I think some of it we remember it being a little bloated at times. I think was the common critique of the Netflix shows was that, hey, man, it's a little too much show right now. Like, hey, yo, it's starting, let's keep it snazzy. So, like, I don't disagree with some of these critiques, but it's also worth noting that, like, it's easy for us to say, oh, they should have did this, when it's like, hey, they did this already. Like, it's a tricky line between giving people what they want, but then retreading new grounds and giving you something fresh, especially when you've had 3.5 seasons of a character. That's easier said than done.
I don't mind, and we're going to talk about this. I guess this is where it's next, is like, we're not getting a whole lot of Daredevil in the suit. This is really focused on what does Matt do as himself and as a lawyer, right? And how does he use his investigative powers more than he's using his, like, fists to solve problems. And like,
that's why I love the show.
Yeah, whether it's working or not. And I think it has been working. I think, like, his willingness to try and defend all these different characters and, like, try and fight for what's right and trusting in the system, and then, or trying to trust in the system in a way that's, like, different than we've seen him before, right? Because before he took things into his own hands because he didn't necessarily trust that, like, everything was going to work out, or that it needed a different way of working. And I think that's obviously the central crux of his growth in the season, or his conflict in the season, is whether he's going to be able to completely trust in the system, or whether he does need to break out the Daredevil suit again, to make things right and to make things happen and to bring justice to the city. Yeah, I don't know. I think I've said all I'm going to say on the Karen thing, or like how that situation worked out. I don't think the prologue would have made a difference for me. I think it's just
we never agree about relationships and shows.
I just didn't like how they executed it, and I think
how they executed Foggy.
But I do think you're right in that I didn't really think about this, in that, like, it was important for the show to work, that, like, that Daredevil got to a point where he couldn't be Daredevil, or didn't want to be Daredevil, and that it made him more of a civilian, and that it mirrors Kingpin's role, and he wants to be more of a civilian, and they're both fighting against some of their nature to do that. And I think that's been really interesting territory for the show to explore. I just think the way they got there was like, could have done with that. I wish they would have done that differently, because I didn't enjoy that. I was like, where's Karen and Foggy? Like, are they just not going to be in the show? And, like, by episode 4, I'm like, oh, okay, I guess they're just not in the show. So, like,
well, you knew by episode 1 Foggy wasn't going to be in the show.
I don't know why they're.
Episode 4, he's like,
so waiting, where's Foggy
going to show up?
Is Foggy coming back?
What's going on?
I mean, you can have Foggy come back in other ways besides being there, or like maybe
necromancer.
Yeah,
if
you
want
necromancer. If you want this to be the goofiest, you want this to something heel turn and be the goofiest shit.
You can do flashbacks. You can do other things. You can have it be where Foggy is.
He's got Iron Man tech.
I don't want flashback of Daredevil seasons 1 through 3.
You can have Foggy be a presence, right? Like, maybe through what
a ghost Foggy.
About.
Oh, he's gonna be like Agatha.
Do you hear this shit? Obi-Wan Kenobi, Foggy ghost.
Not
just
ghost
Obi-Wan
Foggy.
as a force ghost.
He's a presence.
No.
And like, I can see him
as part of Matt's like deliberations and stuff. Like, he has to, like, consider all that.
Nah, dog. I don't think.
I think he is doing that, but without the actor Foggy being there.
Yeah, that's
which
fine.
Is
I mean, it
way better.
It doesn't have to be Foggy the actor. It could be Foggy, a picture of Foggy. It could be like, right, things that remind him.
No, it's not a picture of Foggy. It's his argument with the Punisher, and the Punisher, like, say his goddamn name.
Yeah.
You can't even do that.
And in fairness, Foggy, they do bring up Foggy.
That's what I'm saying. And they finally did it in
episode
episode 4, but, like, for 2 and 3, like, they didn't at all. And it was just, like, odd that, like, this was a huge event for you, and, like, it doesn't come up. Like, I don't know. Like, the fact that.
Though, huh? There was a point where he was with his therapist girlfriend, and she's talking about she mentions Foggy,
exactly.
And, like, Matt brings it up, and, there's a few moments where, or the anniversary part where he tries to put him on the date, like, he says it's the anniversary of it all. There's a few moments where they definitely don't just downplay the Foggy thing. I think even Kingpin himself references Foggy at their meal when they're eating and says, "I want you to know your friend. I had nothing to do with it." Like, so a lot of characters who interact with Matt, funny enough, everybody brings up Foggy except Matt, which I actually think is the most realistic part of him grieving. Like, his coworker Kirsten brings up the anniversary. His girlfriend ends up bringing it up. Punisher brings it up. Kingpin brings it up. The only person who don't want to say Foggy name is Matt. But like, yo, that's, I think, actually very realistic of how people can mourn. They'll just say, "Look, man, I ain't trying to talk about this shit." And they're like, "Yeah, actually, you do need to talk about it, even if it's your main villain." Like, even Kingpin was like, "I'm sorry about your friend.
Yeah.
If it's any comfort, I had nothing to do with his death."
If he's just denying it, right, and just like pressing it down and repressing it, like that's fine. But then that's not coming out in how that's affecting his life.
Well, how he deals with it is different.
And he's not you like that's not on the day-to-day and the everyday things that we're seeing. Like, it's not actually affecting his decision making, right? He's not a worse lawyer because Foggy died. He's not like messing things up, or he's not like letting it come out.
He's not Daredevil because Foggy died.
Yeah.
That's
like
that's
his whole
the crux.
Yeah, like his whole life doesn't have to be in shambles to show that he's affected by the death. You know he's affected by the death because he quit being Daredevil, and he doesn't talk about Foggy, and lots of people around him bring it up, and he has very weird reactions to it, which again, I think that's normal. Like, when I've mourned before, my first thought isn't I want to talk about it.
Yeah,
but
you don't have to.
But boy, the main person who brings up person who's mourning is folks around me who are checking in, which is good. Like, it's not a bad thing, but like, again, my point isn't really how Matt's dealing with it. My point more so is that even though Foggy died in episode 1, it's not like his presence or the effect his character had on the folks around him isn't still felt, because he's brought up, it clearly impacted Matt, and other characters know it impacts Matt because they bring it up. So it sucks that Foggy died, but it's not like he died, they gave him an excuse to quit Daredevil, and then they just never mentioned him again. Like, he's for a character who's dead, the ghost of his actions and stuff clearly floats around. And even when you say, oh, you know, Matt being a lawyer, I would argue Foggy's death motivated him to be a better lawyer, because that was part of why he stepped away, and he wanted to be the decent, caring, work with the system person Foggy was. Like,
I think
it's authentic. I don't think it's authentic to who Matt really is. I think Matt's in denial about that, and that's one of the really cool parts about this show, is that I think he's trying to, you know, I think, in my opinion, honor Foggy's legacy by trying to do it the right way, realizing, yo, man, you Daredevil. You beat MFs up. You know who you are. And that's part of what makes his struggle in the show, you know, so dope, is that he's trying to help regular folks with the law shit, but then when it's all said and done, he's like, yo, some people just need to get their ass beat. and he's right on both fronts of like, yo, you got to use the system, but yo, some people do just need their ass beat.
Yeah.
What you gonna do about it, Matt?
I think this is really where those production issues that Brian referenced is actually like showing its head, and that like it's just like there sometimes and it's not there other times. And had they known that they were going to do that from the beginning, I think they could have done a better job of making sure that like this was something that was like actually like part of the DNA of like the plot and the show and the character building, rather than, you know, it shows up every now and then, like someone mentions it. Like that's fine, but it's not, I don't know, it doesn't feel like it was actually part of the show. Let's keep going. I do think you've helped change my mind in terms of like where like that there is some like plausibility to like how this thing is playing out, whereas like I was just like, this doesn't feel real. So maybe like you said, maybe this actually is like more real, but I don't know, in some ways to me it feels like a weaker show because of that. But there's tons of other things that have been really strong in terms of like what the show has done. I think I really enjoyed like the White Tiger stuff. I've definitely enjoyed after episode 2, I think I was like, I really want more Kingpin and Vanessa, or maybe it was after episode 3, I want more like Kingpin and Vanessa stuff. And then episode 4 happens and we do get more Kingpin and Vanessa stuff. And so I was like, oh, okay, like they did do that thing that I was kind of like annoyed. I was hoping for more of, and it did. So in some ways, like maybe I just have to be a little bit more patient, right? Like the thing with Foggy, it does come back a little bit more in terms of like the Punisher episode, or the scene with the Punisher in episode 4. And so, you know, we'll get to things as we go, right? We're only halfway through. There's still more to come. And that's
patience.
Yeah, patience is okay.
It might be worth noting also that the original series for Born Again was sketched out as an 18-episode series.
Whoa.
Or season rather, and apparently now they chopped that into 2 seasons, right? So like this is like a 9 episode season, and then season 2 is going to be 8, right? So
Okay.
they're doing a lot of like reshaping things, and so maybe some of that slow burnness with the plot is a product of the fact that they charted out this 18 episode thing, and so things aren't meant to really culminate until much later.
Yeah.
You can have a slow burn in terms of plot, but I don't know that you can have a slow burn or like an inconsistent burn in terms of feelings.
Well, it was sort of
What?
like built episodically as well. So I don't know what you're talking about in terms of feelings. I think there are a lot
Yeah, I
of
don't-
feelings going on through
Yeah, I don't think that
these
sentence,
first 4 episodes.
I don't know.
All right. Maybe I'm wrong. Okay. We talked about production challenges. We talked a little bit about Matt not being in the suit. I think that's actually worked quite well. I've enjoyed the fact that like he's mostly living his life as Matt Murdock. I think eventually we're gonna get him back into the suit, right? At the end of the last episode that we saw, episode 4, he opens up his chest of armor, and we see a bunch of helmets that he's worn in the past, I guess.
That's what I love to do after an evening with a lady.
Open up your chest of helmets.
Yeah, let's let off some steam on the rooftop with my billy club.
Yeah, practice some martial arts. So I don't know, Brian. Have you thought that worked to have him out of the suit more than in the suit?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's truly where, to me, like the character shines a lot, right? It's like this, he's playing both sides of the law here, and seeing him play the legal side, but with something else brimming inside of him, right? Like he's having these interactions with cops that are super tense, where he's accusing one cop of murdering his client, and then that cop tries to intimidate him, and then Matt, the Daredevil, comes out and he's like, well, it sounds like based on our last meeting, you should bring more guys. Right? Like
that was awesome.
That's some like tough talk coming from a blind lawyer, but knowing that he's actually Daredevil, you're like, I hope that we see that. And I think we very well might.
What he said in court, my dad said the best trick to avoid a black eye is have fast hands or something like that.
Yeah.
I'm just like, what a
exactly.
dick.
Exactly. And he's the one that gave him that black eye, right?
Heard you got into a fight, officer. Hope you're all right.
Yeah, on the witness stand.
In front of all them people. Hey,
He might as well have winked at that guy.
Yeah, I heard you got your ass whooped. What? Hey, you would like to talk more about that? Don't worry about it.
Nobody's gonna believe the cop if he starts saying like, oh, this guy beat me up because I was chasing after the informant.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I actually really enjoy it, and I do think that him as a lawyer, and then also working on the White Tigers case specifically, just have like a lot of fun, interesting explorations of what it means to be a hero in this at this low level of of street level crime in New York City. And how everybody is engaging in that, right? Like the cops, the just like people on the street that you see in the BB report, Matt as a lawyer, but also as a vigilante. All of that is in this like interesting stew, and they get to explore a lot of that in this format.
I think the BB report has not added enough to justify what it does. I mean, it's fine. It's only a few seconds, every so often, but I don't know. It's all vague stuff. Like
maybe it's building up in the series. Also,
maybe.
It's cool though. It's a nice little way to just get like, I like the little documentary because I think that's a cool little slice of life of actually trying to build out the city. What I've enjoyed with Daredevil, now granted, I'm not gonna pretend I'm some New York expert, Brian. You could speak to that better than me, but like, I do like that, especially in the context of the larger MCU where things can get a little bit more fantastical and a bit out there. This show very much grounds itself, and I think things like them doing the street interviews with a bunch of New York looking people and folks who, I don't know, Brian, in my mind, I'm like, does that look like an LSD, look like an actor? That might have just got a random New York dude and was just having them do like a fake interview type stuff. I don't know. Maybe it's cheesy, maybe it's a little hammy, but to me, it made the city feel more real, and it gave a little bit of life to how they're talking about New York rather than it just feels like generic city A, B, C, D, E, F, G. You know, it feels like it's been brought a lot. I like it, and I think that they're going to definitely build up to it in an interesting way because the girl's leaking information that she gets because that's what happened with the dude with the thing that pissed off Kingpin. And clearly Kingpin's trying to take advantage of that too. So it's going to play into the plot and how people, you know, maybe media, news, how you flip things and how that affects portrayals and all that. And then all of that of her being, a relative of Ben Urich, the reporter who got killed in the original series. Like, I am a big fan of those street interviews, and I think it's going to absolutely pay off in a dope way towards the end. And at the very least, I like the idea of them just asking random New Yorkers what their thoughts are of these comic book characters that we tend to have other opinions about. Like, we know Kingpin's a villain, but what does a fictional New Yorker actually think of Kingpin in the context of a city with lots of crime and all kinds of shit? The answers people gave weren't crazy. Or people who didn't rock with Kingpin. Those answers, like, these felt like real things people on the street would say about their local politicians, even if Kingpin we know is a monster. It's like, yeah, but they got folks who would probably say that about somebody who did do all the shit Kingpin do. And I think it's a little thing that adds a little bit of stylistic spice to the show, and I think will be plot relevant. But I'm a big fan of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's what real people are talking about right now, like all over the streets of New York and probably all over America. They're like, what about this guy's past? Like, he's got buried bodies. What about that? And then you got other people saying, like, there's too much crime on the subway. We need to rein it in. Like we need to be safe in our communities, and all the other different voices in between those polarities, right?
You got the old Italian dude, the young black woman.
Yeah,
they got like the full. It feels like New York.
I do think it adds a lot of dimension to the setting of a mayor and a street level vigilante, right? Like, and there's going to be people around them that they need to build out to help make the environment feel a little bit more real. Now, like, does the BB report itself, like, stylistically, like, feel real? Like, okay, somebody filming like a news show in film, in a, you know, like, grainy film, like, maybe that's kind of weird. What they really should have had was like the dude from Subway Takes. Kareem, what's your take? Like,
yeah,
mattresses are overrated. 100% disagree, right? Like maybe we could get that guy, and then like it would feel really real.
I love that guy.
Or we could get some like side talk action with a little bing bong.
Bing bong.
But like, you know, otherwise, like you get the idea. Like, those kind of things do flesh out like that the city is part of this, right? And that real people have stakes in what happens with the decisions that Daredevil and Kingpin as mayor are going to make.
Yeah, it was cool to see like an old lady. It was cool to see like one dude be like, yo, man, yeah, Daredevil, vigilantes, hell yeah, these criminals out of control. Someone gonna beat their ass? Yeah, I'm absolutely here for it. And then another person and you know, a separate person give good reason of like a heavy New York accent guy say why. Yeah, I heard Fisk killed a guy. Yeah, I'd like to see that. It's like, yeah, that's some like.
Yeah, I'd like to see it.
The interviews and that stuff sells me and endears me to the idea of, I guess I can see how Kingpin could be elected mayor. Because for me, the whole Kingpin runs for mayor arc was always kind of iffy to me. Partially because as a reader,
it's a little weird, right?
Partially as a reader, you know that he's so evil, so like it's less believable to you. And sometimes, you know what it is? Sometimes comic books can struggle to let you know what the public perception of villains are to people who aren't in the superhero world. And in the series, you know Kingpin is a monster, but you don't really know to what extent regular folks in the streets really have an opinion about him. You know he might be a little gangster, but like, politicians have been criminals all throughout history. Someone having shady connections isn't some unheard of thing. In fact, that's probably the most realistic part about him being mayor is that the man's low key a criminal.
It's
like
way believable
on the real.
Now.
Like that's probably more believable. But I think they fleshed that out by bringing in regular citizens. Otherwise, I would have had a harder time believing someone like Fisk could get elected because all I've seen is the awful shit that no one knows about, and so your brain can have trouble separating Fisk, the character you have seen as the viewer, versus Fisk, the fictional figure in this show that people in this world only have limited information about. You might know he's a little dangerous. You don't know he beat people to death with his hands.
All right. This show is also, because Daredevil is not in the suit very often, we're not getting a ton of like just action scenes. And we've got the fight scene that we had between Bullseye in the first episode. We had a pretty cool apartment fight scene with Daredevil versus a couple of cops that came to try and kill or kidnap the informant that was supposed to testify on behalf of White Tiger. That didn't turn out to be great, but it didn't work out for White Tiger on that
That's
one.
unfolded.
Yeah, he said, "Ooh, I don't recall saying that at all."
They should have left your ass at home.
Yeah,
You
no, it was way
dope.
worse that he got on the stand and said, "No, I don't."
They got
I
him
don't know
doped up and everything. Like, damn, we got you the dope and everything.
He got his dope. Yeah,
he got his
and
dope
then-
and. Like,
And he just said, "Nah."
there are a lot of cops here.
Yeah, he got intimidated. So we're in this dialogue, pretty dialogue heavy show. We're getting a lot with Wilson Fisk and with his team. We're getting a lot with Matt talking with his clients. He defends a client, Leroy, who was caught for shoplifting like a box of cereal or something like that, or a couple boxes of cereal from
Fiddle Faddle,
Caramel
caramel
yeah.
popcorn.
Yeah, they made a big deal. It was Fiddle Faddle, man. They said that over and over again, and caramel corn. But he gets deep into like, like, the system is broken if they want to keep punishing me for like these small things when like I can't get my food stamps, I can't get these things that I need to like be supported, and instead the system only wants to send me to jail, right? And that's their only thing that they're like interested in.
And that it costs way more to imprison him,
right?
than
Points
the
that out.
cost of those
Which, like,
caramel corn.
yeah, who knows? I mean, it did seem like he knew that was coming. So I think like, and that actually, I really enjoyed that scene, right? And maybe it was a little bit heavy handed, but I think that his ability to make it real, that like, I've been struggling my whole life against this machine and this system, and like I keep coming up on the wrong end of it, and so like I am frustrated with you, I'm frustrated with this system, and like it's not necessarily super personal to Matt. It's just like, like I don't believe that like this thing is actually working. I don't believe that this is working for me, or that anybody wants me to succeed. And so like I'm just like, he was really upset about like how the whole situation had come down, and he was just like, I'm done trying to play this game and trying to be the good Boy Scout, like, whatever, I'm not going to play these games anymore. And so like I think that was like a really it was engaging to watch this actor kind of pull that off, and from behind the glass or whatever they were talking through. But yeah, anyways, I don't know, is it working for you? I think the scene between Punisher and Daredevil to me was intense. Like it was really strong, and John Bernthal got to kind of stretch his Punisher wings. And like in my opinion, probably this is the role that I love him in the most. Right? He's been in a lot of other roles. He's been
born
very
for
intense.
Punisher.
Yeah, he's been very physical and very intense in other roles. But to me, when he plays the Punisher, I'm like, this dude is like 100% like into this, and
He's
that
in
I
his
can't
element.
imagine anybody else playing the Punisher now.
Yeah, similar to like Kingpin, right? Like,
Yeah,
of course it's got to be Vincent D'Onofrio. For Punisher, of course it's John Bernthal.
No, I still think Kingpin should be the late Michael Clark Duncan, but hey, what do I know?
he
He was the Kingpin in the Daredevil movie, I think, right?
Was he?
Little deep cut for y'all. I'm kidding. Let's keep it moving.
Ben
But-
Affleck definitely is Daredevil,
No.
the one and only.
Is it Colin Farrell? Is that the dude?
He plays Bullseye.
He played
Colin
Bullseye.
Farrell is Bullseye.
I never miss.
But that moment between them, I thought was just a huge standout, and him keying in, like, it was a lot of like, oh, I'm going to read between the lines here and get to the heart of what you're actually here for. And that was cool, right? Like I thought that was a good piece of writing, of not just like saying what you think it is. It was like, no, you're here because you want permission to like go be your worst self. Right. And that's on you. You can make that decision. I think that's right for me, and whatever. And like, he's like, but you're sitting here trying to get somebody else to take the blame for you. It's like, no, you should do that, and you should own that decision. Right. And it feels, and he's like, otherwise you're going to be burnt up by this guilt inside you. And he's like, coming from someone who knows, because I do this shit every single day. This is my whole thing. Right. And like, it's just like interesting for him to say like, no, you actually want to go further than what you're saying. Like, you're not here to like just get my help. You're here to like go for it And if you are actually gonna go for it, then like own that shit. And he's like, no, I'm not gonna do that, right? And he has this moment, crisis of confidence in what he's actually trying to do. I thought that was cool. It's like he's throwing him off in a different way than like someone like Kingpin throws off Matt Murdock.
Yeah,
Brian.
is like such a great character moment. And similarly, right, and like it was a way to explore what Matt is going through and what I think he's dealing with this whole season. Similarly, like even in the courtroom, right? I kind of love like this courtroom stuff. I'm kind of a sucker for it. The closing arguments in the White Tiger case, right? You have
Yeah, that was
Matt
good.
Murdock telling the jury, like, no, this guy is a force of good. He's jumping into burning cars, saving people, changing people's lives. Like,
Even the
you know,
police.
this does not make any sense. The police themselves love this guy, right? And then you get the prosecutor saying, hey, like, you could be a good person, you do good things, but that doesn't mean you can't do something bad, right? Every now and again.
Which
And,
was
right,
really
and
they're just talking about Daredevil right that whole time.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, yeeting your boy
right?
off a roof.
Like
Yeah.
Matt Murdock is trying to defend himself,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
But knowing that he did this thing where he crossed his own line, but he's supposed to be the good guy in this. Like, how could he do something like that? And so like that is something to grapple with, and I love how the show is using dialogue and strong writing and these non-action moments, these non-superhero moments, really to get at the core themes that the core conflict really that's driving Daredevil throughout the season.
All right. Oh, sorry, Sav. How have you been liking the dialogue? Less fighty, punchy punchies.
It's good. We got lots of the punchy punchies in the original series. Like, that's why I'm glad. What I'm enjoying with Born Again is that we're getting something a little bit different.
And we're still getting some of the action fight scenes, but
yeah, but we're
it
not.
hasn't dominated.
In sprinkles.
Yeah.
Like I said, we got the intro fight, which was again very separated from what the tone of the main series was in the main conflict. That was kind of its own thing. So really, in terms of the main plot and stuff, I barely consider that fight really, sure. But in terms of the Born Again, we haven't really gotten him. We got him fighting a couple cops real quick. But like, I'm liking the dialogue. I'm liking that it's all reflecting on. I mean, I said it before. I like that we have this cleared off board because we get to see new characters, have these interactions, have these fresh new conversations. I like Matt's girlfriend, the therapist, and the conversations that they have with one another, and just their whole dynamic. I love the therapy scenes with her, and then with Fisk and Vanessa, and how there's just so many layered conversations, and there's so much code speak, and she can read between the lines for some stuff. But
I love all these
others.
Kingpin scenes.
Yeah, I mean,
They've been
all
awesome.
Yeah, but back to my thing I was mentioning earlier, that's landing for me in part because we've gotten to clear the board and give new characters room to kind of get to shine and cook. Like White Tiger was great, and I'm glad. And granted, it was a very short time we got him, but Hector Ayala was amazing, and all the stuff with him and his dialogue and his conversations about how he was like, "Yo, I don't even see this as like I have to do this." He got off, and then the next day, like, some people say, "Oh, it's dumb. His character went out and get shot." And I'm like, yeah, but from how his dialogue was, you knew this man saw this as a calling. He was not finna back down ever. Like, but the dialogue is what really sold you on that and being like, oh man, he really is about this White Tiger shit. Like, at first I was like, this is a man in the costume. I ain't trying to see this. And then I'm like, oh, he really. But the point of the dialogue is doing a job of endearing me to characters.
Costume.
But endearing me to characters, making me care about them. And yeah, I'm here for it. And then as I read a little bit more about the actual Daredevil Born Again comic line, not the details of it because I don't want to know what happens, but the broad strokes, Matt's not in his Daredevil suit most of it. This is very much the Spider-Man 2 of Daredevils in terms of like, yo man, you might not see your homeboy really suited up until the ass end of this, which is what it's looking like. And that's dope because Matt Murdock is low-key a more interesting character than Daredevil, and that's no shade to Daredevil. Like, the only thing I miss is that I don't see Matt go to church anymore, which I kind of hope they would reference that or talk about it or something. My favorite thing in the OG series was that they really wove his Catholic background into his character of like, He's a lawyer. He cares about justice. They still lean into that. Him being an agent of vengeance from his Catholic perspective and being the devil. I kind of missed them not talking about the Catholic element of him because I thought that's what made his character very interesting, and him having the confessionals with the father and all that was really dope. But I like this exploration of Matt and the reality of that he's probably been, I think we could agree, I don't know, Brian West, that he's been low-key lying to himself this first chunk of these few episodes. Like when he's in court talking about Foggy and all this, the system works, and trying to have faith and not wanting to whoop people ass. And it's just interesting to force Matt out of the suit, because now you can see him subconsciously trying to find every reason to get back in the suit. And it's like it's almost like he has a substance abuse issue. It's really cool to see that he's like, even when he smacked Punisher, he was at me like, I'm sorry, damn it, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that. Or when he whooped the cop's ass, it was a scream of like him being, he felt like someone who had said, I'm not eating meat for Lent, and then accidentally ate a hot dog. And it's just, he's
Yeah.
like, damn it, I was trying not to.
Yeah.
And he flips the table.
Yeah, this wasn't my cheat day.
But it's also like,
but it's
he's
great
in a
characterization.
He's in a room of hot dogs. Like he's at the Oscar Mayer plant. Like he's stuck there. And I say that because like the justice system that he's working so hard to work within is clearly not functioning the way it's supposed to be. Like even though he says it is, but his client gets killed, right? Like the police have so much power in that dynamic as well, right? Like the crime informant did not give. And
Bullseye's alive and Foggy's dead.
And then Leroy, you know, he admits that Leroy has a very legitimate point about his grievances getting picked up all the time and being in and out of the system, right? It's not working as it should. And so something's wrong. And definitely we know.
And Fisk is fisking it up.
Fisk, yeah. The Kingpin also has plans, right? And that's actually part of the season where I have the biggest question mark on is like, where exactly are we going with the Kingpin Mayor storyline? I'm not entirely sure just yet, but it's clear like he wants to shake things up and, you know, bring this energy to the mayor's office. He doesn't have Elon Musk like you know, chainsawing things down. It seems like he's getting reined in too much. So this might be a little bit more like Trump v1, where, you know, Kingpin realizes like the limitations. He too realizes limitations of the office and then is going to do something wild to really move forward, you know, his agenda.
Oh, yeah. I'm just going to co-sign Brian that, the Kingpin Mayor thing. I think the Kingpin Mayor thing it's just meant to be, I said, it's just a parallel to Matt's thing, right? Like Kingpin probably wants to change, but he knows who he really is on the inside. And it's less about what his plans are, at least in my opinion. It's less about what Kingpin's big plans are and more about how long can you be in this position before your true Kingpin nature comes out. And then what does that mean for you being the mayor of the city, for better or for worse? Like, I think it's
he's
less
got
about
bloody
his
fists throughout this whole thing.
Exactly, which now we know why. I was like, oh, why your hands effed up? And then now we know at the end of the most recent episode why. Because even I'm sure y'all thought that too. I'm like, he's supposed to be not doing his life, but he got messed up knuckles, huh? So
I thought he was like punching walls to like relieve his anger.
Yeah, something. But
he's relieving his anger.
Yeah,
not walls.
Yeah, but I think the stuff with Kingpin and Matt, I think it's best to look at this from don't think about this is literally about the journey. Because I think no matter how you spin this, they're going to both relapse into who they were at the start of this, which is the Kingpin criminal and the Daredevil vigilante. It's just a matter of how did they try to reconcile with that? How did they try to fight that? How well did they fight it? And what led to them ultimately sliding back into their old ways? They're both doing it. And there's lots of, film moments that drive that home, right? Like Kingpin going downstairs into the basement to torture the dude in the same period that Matt's going up to the roof to practice with his batons, and Matt's clearly slipping back into, he's leaving his lawyer life with his girlfriend to go do the Daredevil thing, and Kingpin's leaving. Even Kingpin, right? Even the food stuff, all right? Normally Kingpin's eating real healthy and shit, and then when he goes to the basement, that boy's eating good. He eating the sausage and
those are hot dogs,
sausage and the pasta. That boy eating good. But like, the clear theme between both of them has been you're lying to yourself Matt, you think the system works. Kingpin, you think you can be legitimate. And the truth is, y'all both know who y'all really are. How long can you fight your actual nature? And that feels like the theme of Born Again, and I'm excited to see how that plays out. That being said, one other thing, Muse, the person with the blood, I think depending on how things goes with them in the subway tracks, I know we're talking about the tone and the violence and all that. I still think this has been a very mature show in terms of the themes, maybe not the violence, but we still have a second half of the show where we still might get the violence that maybe does align more with what we saw in the trailer. Like, we have a blood-based serial killer dude, and Matt's going to be putting the suit back on. Don't be surprised if we have to backtrack some of what we said about them leading the show thinking it was going to be one thing. And maybe it's like, oh, you're actually going to get that, but we're building up to it for the back half of the season.
Could be.
Because last thing we saw was this dude draining blood out of people, and I was like, cool, there's no way that they're going to be able to have this dude be on screen and not have this shit be very violent and disturbing. Like, there's no PG-13 way to go about this. So I'm like, all right, let's see tonally where this goes, because you can't really clean this shit up.
And somebody was executed too, right? With like a Punisher insignia bullet, right? So that's like a whole nother thing that will come to a head at some point.
Yeah. That being said, this show is not afraid to like take swipes at like our criminal justice system for a Disney Plus show. I wasn't expecting them to go all out of like, man, F the police.
Seriously, you would think that Disney would have tamped down on that, especially now.
I know. Look, I'm like, shit, man. If that was the case, y'all should have made the Falcon thing into. If y'all was gonna let them do all this, y'all should have let the Falcon stuff be a show instead of a movie. So y'all wouldn't have been so scared to go there. I'm like, I would, in that case, if y'all was willing to go there, y'all should have did that with the Falcon shit. But yeah, man, they are not pulling any punches, and that's also helping the show really drive home its point. Like, it's not tonally inconsistent in that regard. It's a superhero world, but the police still suck.
Yeah, which is why you need Daredevil.
Yeah, which is why you need these vigilante names.
All right, we are out of time. More Daredevil. We'll see. We'll see what happens in the second half of the season. I'm excited.
I'm excited too.
Brian, are you going to keep watching, or are you?
Oh
done?
Yeah. No.
You're in.
I'm totally
invested.
into it. Yeah.
Okay. Sav, you sounds like you're invested and you want to see what happens in the second half.
Yeah, I suppose I'll watch and see the rest of what happens. We'll see. No, I'm enjoying the hell out of Daredevil. I'm
nice.
having a blast.
Okay. All right. Well, maybe we'll come revisit this in another couple episodes. I don't know what's coming next week. We might do a What We're Loving because Andor and The Last of Us 2 will be coming, I think, in April. Is that right?
That is correct. I believe they start the same week or something like that.
Okay. Oh yeah, it does look like it's around the same time, end of April. So we got about a month to go before we get to Andor and The Last of Us 2, or season 2. So until then, no homework necessarily for any listeners out there. If you have seen Severance season 2, don't spoil it. I'm only on episode like 1 or 2 right now.
The things and stuff happens.
Oh my God, Wesley!
I'm a little behind. And I think those are the big shows that are out right now. I don't know if there's anything else. I was watching that Kate Hudson show on Netflix, Running Point, enjoying it. It's silly. It's not a must watch, but silly good time. It's a Mindy Kaling show. It feels like a Mindy Kaling show. So I think she gets me. I think I'm enjoying it. All right, friends, we're out of here. See you later. Bye bye. Happy April. I think it's gonna come out in April.
Laters.
Laters.